Have you ever wondered why we constantly search for happiness? But the more we search, the further it seems to drift away. In this vast sea of humanity, everyone yearns for joy, for a peaceful haven in their soul. We often think that happiness is something grand. It must mean possessing wealth, fame, or a life free from suffering. But the more we strive for it, the more exhausted we feel, as if running endlessly in a vicious circle with no escape. Some achieve many things, yet still sit alone in the dead of night, sighing. Others struggle daily, their smiles merely a mask for tears. It turns out that happiness is not somewhere far away, but rather a tiny seed sown in a serene soul, just like when we sow a seedling. Initially, it's just a tiny, seemingly insignificant seed, but with caring hands, with the rain, with the sunlight, that seedling gradually sprouts, grows green leaves, and then one day bursts into vibrant blossoms. Human happiness is the same. It doesn't appear immediately when we wish for it. It doesn't come from haste. It is the result of a soul that knows how to sow wholesome seeds, that knows how to water them with peace and love. When our mind is at peace, we can truly bloom with countless beautiful things, like flowers in the morning sun. Yet, in our daily lives, we are easily swept into the grind of work, into accumulated worries. Sometimes we get angry over a thoughtless word, feel sad about a failure, or feel lost when we see others succeed more than us. These things are like passing storms, burying the seed within us under the sands of worries. We forget that it is serenity. It is the gentle breath we take each day that is the true source, nurturing happiness. A mother can find happiness in the eyes of her innocent child when it smiles sweetly. A father can find happiness in the moment the whole family gathers around a simple meal. A young person can find happiness when someone listens to their private thoughts. And sometimes, happiness is simply sitting down, letting go of all concerns, and listening to the wind blow through the trees. These small things are the precious seeds we can sow in our hearts every day. So, the journey to find happiness is not actually an external race. It's like turning pages in the book of life and realizing that the simple words are the real answer. If there's peace in our hearts, then no matter how chaotic or competitive the outside world may be, we can still smile. If our hearts are full of love, then darkness cannot obscure the light. And if we know how to sow the seeds of happiness starting today, then tomorrow, the day after, and for all the years to come, we will have a serene garden blooming in our own hearts. Do you realize? All the suffering we have endured, all the tears we have shed, are also fertilizer for that seed to grow. Happiness, sometimes, is not what we have, but how we perceive it. A heart that knows how to appreciate, how to let go, and how to smile in the face of adversity will naturally find peace and joy. The seed of happiness does not wait for someone else to bring it to us. It lies right in this hand, in every breath, in every gentle gaze we offer to life. And today, we begin that journey. The journey to find happiness is not far away, but right within our own heart that yearns for peace. My dear friend, as we live this life, no one can avoid stumbling or experiencing pain that feels like it could drown our whole heart. Sometimes, just an unintentional word from a loved one can sting. Sometimes, it's the betrayal of a friend we've trusted for so long. Sometimes, it's a failure at work, a financial loss, or a loss of honor. These things are like sudden storms that arrive, demolishing the peaceful home we painstakingly built. We are confused. We are bewildered. We feel small in this vast sea of humanity, wondering why life doesn't go as planned. Why do all our efforts only lead to hurt? And then we get caught in that vicious cycle. The more we blame, the more we suffer. The more we resist, the more exhausted we become. However, if one day we stop and listen deeply within our hearts, we will realize that suffering is not an enemy, but a part of life. Like sudden rains, they soak us, making us shiver. But it is also those raindrops that nourish the seedlings, making the earth more fertile. Suffering is the same. It comes to teach us lessons about letting go, about courage, about the strength of a heart that never stops reaching upward. Buddha once taught that life is inherently impermanent. What is born will die. What comes together will part. And what brings happiness will also bring suffering. If we only want to grasp smiles while running from tears, how can we fully understand the value of contentment? Only when we accept both sunshine and rain, only when we accept the scratches on our journey, can we serenely continue walking. The Lin Ung Buddhist channel recalls the story of Mr. Nguyen Van Hoa, a simple carpenter I once met. When he was young, he opened a small carpentry shop. His hands were skillful, his heart full of enthusiasm. He believed that if he just worked hard, life would smile upon him. But then, by misplacing his trust, he was exploited by friends and lost all his capital. Years of sweat and effort vanished like sea foam in a storm. Many at that time advised him to resent, even sue, to reclaim what was his. But he chose a different path. He quietly put aside his pain, accepted his failure, and went to work as a hired hand in someone else's shop. Day after day, he worked while secretly learning new skills, retraining from scratch. 5 years later, from nothing, he rebuilt a larger, more stable, and more successful carpentry shop than before. When I asked him how he was able to get through those dark days, he just smiled. A happy person is not someone who has never fallen, but someone who knows how to get back up after every fall. Failure didn't make me lose my value. It just showed me how to stand firmer. That statement sowed a seed of awakening in my heart. Clearly, happiness is not about never falling, but about being able to smile and move forward after falling down. If we take the time to look deeper, we will see that most of our suffering comes from our unwillingness to accept reality. We want everything to go our way. We want life to always be complete. We want others to always meet our expectations. But life is like a river, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent. If we cling to a single image, we will be caught in a vortex of disappointment. When we learn to accept, we no longer waste energy fighting against things that cannot be changed. We let life flow as it is, and in that flow, we find serenity. There's a small practice you can try today. When sadness arises, instead of hastily driving it away, sit down, place your hand on your heart, and breathe slowly. As you inhale, whisper, "I know there is pain in me." As you exhale, smile, "I accept this pain." Repeat a few times, and you will feel your heart soften. In fact, when we embrace pain with acceptance, it is no longer an enemy, but becomes a true teacher. It teaches us lessons about patience, tolerance, and the power of letting go. In the book of life we are currently turning pages in, each page has both ink smudges and beautiful lines of text. If we only look at the smudges, we will find the book terrible. But if we accept them as part of the picture, we will see that the entire book has its own unique beauty. Your life is the same. Don't avoid suffering, because avoidance only makes it grow larger. Look it straight in the eye, walk through it, and you will find yourself more mature, resilient, and serene than ever before. Remember, you don't need to be perfect to be happy. You just need to be courageous enough to get up after a fall, gentle enough to forgive yourself, and patient enough to sow a new seed in your soul. From that seed, faith and peace will blossom like flowers under the sun. And then you will smile, realizing that suffering is just a stretch of the road, while happiness is the endless journey we are on. There's something that everyone seems to know, and that is themselves. But in reality, many times we don't truly understand who we are. We think we know every thought, every dream, every sorrow in our hearts. Yet, if we truly understood ourselves, why do we still feel lost in this life? Why do we still feel tired, struggling in endless cycles with no escape? We can spend our whole lives conquering the outside world, but few are willing to sit down and listen to the voice from their own heart. We often chase after what others deem right, trying to meet the expectations of society, family, and friends. But in those cycles, do we ever stop to ask what we truly need? What brings us peace? Some throw themselves into work, thinking that a stable career will bring happiness. Some think that money, houses, cars will dispel anxiety. Others believe that someone's love will be the only cure for the soul. But then, when they achieve these things, they still feel empty, still unable to find peace. In Buddhist philosophy, suffering arises from ignorance, which means not seeing the truth clearly. Ignorance leads us to mistakenly believe that happiness lies outside, in fleeting glitz. But when we look outward too much, we forget that the source of joy lies right within our own minds. That is why the Buddha taught that conquering 1,000,000 armies is not equal to conquering oneself. Looking back at ourselves, shining a light on our inner being, that is the most difficult journey. But it is also the path that leads us back to true peace. I remember the story of Ms. Lan, a kind woman devoted to her students. But like many others, she carried many dreams and ambitions. She taught at school during the day and tutored in the evenings. All of it was to save enough money to buy a spacious house and a car to make life less difficult. Initially, she thought that if she just worked hard for a few years, everything would be fine. But then, year after year, work piled up, and her health gradually depleted. There were days when she was so exhausted that her head spun while teaching. Her voice was hoarse, and her eyes were blurry from fatigue. The peak was when she fell seriously ill and had to be hospitalized for many weeks. Between the 4 white walls, amidst the IV tubes, she finally had time to reflect on herself. She asked herself, what have I been chasing all these years? What do I truly need to be happy? The answer brought tears to her eyes. It wasn't the house, it wasn't the car, but simply moments of being healthy, reading a few pages of a good book, or enjoying a cozy meal with her children. Such simple things, it turned out, were true happiness. Yet, before that, she had never realized it. After recovering, Ms. Lan decided to reduce her teaching hours and decline some extra classes. She dedicated that time to herself, exercising, reading, planting flowers, and caring for her family. Strangely, even though her income decreased, her heart felt lighter, and her smiles appeared more often. She had rediscovered simple joy from within, something she had never felt before in the hurried pace of life. Ms. Lan's story is proof that only when we stop and turn inward can we see the root of suffering, and also the place where the seeds of happiness are stored. Bottomless ambition is like a deep hole. We keep throwing endless effort and time into it, but it never fills up. True happiness, on the other hand, is like a small seedling that needs us to water it with stillness and self-observation. In our daily lives, how many times do we let ourselves get swept away in a whirlwind without stopping in time? Each morning, we wake up, rush to get ready, and speed onto the road in a torrent of traffic. The workday is exhausting, and in the evening, we hold our phones, checking every news update, every image, only to find our minds even more cluttered. We live in this endless cycle of earning a living and habits, forgetting that our inner self also needs care. Like a garden, if it's not watered and fertilized, it will gradually dry up, overgrown with weeds. So, how do we return to ourselves to see clearly within? First, we need to pause a little. Even amidst busyness, we can still set aside a few minutes for our breath. Inhale deeply, exhale slowly, feeling the air move in and out. Then, we will find our minds gradually settling down, and our worries slowly dissipating. This is a simple but extremely effective way to return to ourselves, not to be swept away by external forces. You can try a small practice right now. Close your eyes, place your hand on your chest, listen to your heartbeat. As you inhale, whisper to yourself, I am returning to myself. As you exhale, whisper, I am dwelling in peace. Just a few minutes like this, and you will feel a gentle energy spreading throughout your soul. This practice doesn't require a long time or a special space. You just need to allow yourself to pause. Once you become accustomed to listening to your inner self, you will gradually recognize the inherent seeds of happiness. Perhaps it's a memory of a sunny afternoon on the porch, your mother's smile, or the voice of a long-lost friend you just met. These things are small, but they nourish our souls. When we recognize them, we learn to appreciate. We learn to smile at the present moment. And then, happiness is no longer something distant, but a simple, real presence. The Buddha taught that happiness is not about accumulating a lot, but about knowing sufficiency and living mindfully. If we keep looking outward, we will always feel a lack. But if we turn inward, we will see that what we have is already more than enough. That is the path back to our inner self, the path that helps us find peace amidst the stormy sea of life. So the lesson we can learn is to take time to reflect on ourselves. Be brave enough to face the fears, ambitions, and hurts within your heart. Gently observe them, like observing a cloud drifting across the sky. Then you will see that suffering is also just a part of life. It comes and goes. It doesn't stay forever. And the seed of happiness, if we care for it, will grow and blossom in our souls. The Lin Buddhist channel wants to send you a reminder. In the hurried flow of life, don't forget to stop and listen to the whispers of your own heart, because only when you return to your inner self will you truly find peace. A wish for you to always know how to nurture your soul's garden, so that each day that passes is a peaceful and complete day. In life, perhaps everyone has at least once experienced the heavy feeling of not being able to let go. We may be unable to let go of things that were once familiar, feelings that once overflowed, or ambitions that we thought, if held tightly, would make our lives complete. Some hold on to a broken love in their hearts, only to look in the mirror each day and see sorrow in their eyes. Some agonizingly dwell on a past mistake, constantly blaming themselves, thinking, if only I had chosen differently that year, things would be different now. Others cling tightly to resentment over betrayal, over being hurt by loved ones, allowing that anger to seep into their blood, making their hearts heavy and tired. Yet, the more we cling, the more we suffer. It's like grasping a thorny vine. The tighter we squeeze our hand, hoping to keep something for ourselves, the more the blood flows. Life is inherently impermanent. Everything is in a process of change. Time does not stop for our sadness, nor does it turn back so we can correct a wrong decision. The past is like a river that has already flowed away. We can stand and watch it. We can remember, but we cannot swim upstream to change anything. Yet people often cling to the past, seeing it as the only place they were ever happy or where they were tormented. And they forget that the present is where they truly live. The Buddha taught that all phenomena are impermanent. All things and events are formed by conditions. When conditions are sufficient, they arise. When conditions dissipate, they cease. We cannot force a flower to bloom forever, nor can we keep a green leaf fresh on a branch indefinitely. A close friend today may be distant tomorrow. A secure job today may disappear in an instant. Health, though abundant, will gradually weaken one day. Understanding impermanence is the first step to knowing how to let go. Not letting go out of helplessness, but letting go because we understand that clinging only causes us more suffering. There is a beautiful image that masters often use to simply explain letting go. It is the image of a traveler on a long journey, carrying a heavy stone on his back. At first, he thinks he is strong enough. He just needs to endure a little more to carry that stone all the way to the end of the road. But the longer he walks, the heavier the stone weighs on his shoulders, exhausting him, making him sweat profusely, and his steps weary. Only when he puts the stone down does he realize that the road ahead has not shortened, but his own feet have become light. Letting go is not a loss, but rather a liberation from a burden. The Lin Buddhist channel suddenly remembers the story of Mrs. Mai, a woman from a small village in the north. Her father passed away early, leaving behind a house and a piece of land. It was thought that the siblings would preserve them together, keeping the family legacy warm and harmonious. But unexpectedly, her father's passing was the beginning of endless arguments. Everyone wanted more. Everyone wanted to claim a piece of land, a bit of property for themselves. Mrs. Mai was also very angry at first. She felt wronged, disrespected by her siblings. She spent many sleepless nights, her pillow soaked with tears. But then, one day, sitting before her father's altar, watching the incense smoke, she realized that her father had struggled all his life, only wishing for his children to be harmonious. Yet now, their disputes were disturbing her father's spirit. Thinking of this, she decided to let go, not to contend, giving up her share for the sake of peace in the family. And it was strange. From that day on, she slept better, her heart felt lighter, and whenever she met her siblings, she could still smile and greet them. She said, "Losing the land made me sad, but keeping our family bond made me happy. That's the letting go that made me feel as light as if I had just put down a heavy stone." That story is not unique to Mrs. May. In this vast sea of humanity, how many people are carrying invisible stones on their backs? Some carry resentment, some carry regret, some carry endless ambition. They walk on and on, but never find peace. Just try to put it down once, and you will feel an immeasurable lightness in your heart. If one day you feel too burdened by past pains, try to stop. Close your eyes and breathe. Inhale deeply, consciously aware that you are alive, breathing, present. Exhale slowly. Smile and release all tension and anger. You can place your hand on your chest, feeling your heartbeat, like a reminder that the present is the most precious gift. You can write down all your worries on a piece of paper, then gently tear it up, as if returning them to the past. That is a way to train your mind to let go and move forward. Letting go does not mean abandoning everything. Letting go is choosing what is most important to keep. When we let go of anger, we keep peace. When we let go of disputes, we keep family ties. When we let go of the past, we keep the present. Just like a gardener who, wanting healthy trees, must cut away diseased branches so the tree can channel its sap to nourish new ones. Our lives are the same. If we don't let go of the old, our hearts won't have room for new happiness. Think about it. If we cling to losses our whole lives, where will there be room to receive the joy knocking at our door? If we keep staring at a closed door, we won't see another door opening before us. Sometimes letting go is the beginning of an even more beautiful journey. The message that the Zen Buddhist channel wants to convey is that letting go is not a loss, but a gentle step forward. Like a bird soaring in the sky, it doesn't carry its nest, nor the branch it perched on. It only needs its wings and the sky. We are the same. We don't need to hold on to everything to feel complete. With just a calm and tranquil mind, everything will be peaceful. So if today you are still feeling burdened, allow yourself to put down some of that weight. Forgive those who have hurt you, because forgiveness is not for them, but for yourself. Close a sad chapter, because the book of life still has many bright pages waiting for you to write. Be courageous enough to leave the cycle of the past, to embrace the present, my dear friend. Have you ever sat quietly amidst the hurried pace of life and wondered what keeps a person from getting lost, from falling into emptiness in this bustling sea of people? Perhaps we've experienced days so rushed that we didn't have time to look within, didn't notice how far we had gone. On the path of striving for a living, we constantly chase after money, fame, and then suddenly realize that when we lie down at night, our hearts are still heavy with unspoken voids. That's when we forget to hold on to our inner self, the bright lamp in the darkness, the cool spring in the arid desert. Once the mind is lost, no matter how much material wealth we have, our hearts will still feel hungry, lonely, and anxious. Buddha once taught that people suffer not from lack, but from losing mindfulness in their hearts. When we allow greed, anger, and selfishness to cloud our judgment, our conscience gradually dries up. A person who loses their humanity is like a tree drained of its life sap. Even if it stands firm, it withers from within. The suffering in society today often stems from cold hearts, where love is forgotten, where people only look at each other with suspicion and competition. A coin found can cause people to fight. A small profit can make them forget all kindness. That's when we fall into the vicious cycle of karma, sowing indifference and reaping loneliness, sowing deceit and receiving distrust, sowing selfishness and reaping the fear of betrayal. But it is also in daily life, amidst the busyness and challenges, that we still encounter quiet lights radiating from human hearts. I want to tell you a small story that contains a great lesson about preserving one's inner purity. Mr. Min, a worker, after a long day, accidentally found a wallet on his way home. Inside, there was 20 million dong. That's a significant amount for a manual laborer. His friends around him, some told him to keep it as good luck. Others advised him to at least keep a portion. But after many moments of internal struggle, Min decided to find the owner and return it. When the wallet was returned, its owner, a poor man, burst into tears, his eyes red and trembling. He thanked Min. It wasn't just tears of gratitude, but also tears that cleansed faith. Min recounted that in that moment, he felt his heart lighten, as if a clear light was radiating from his heart throughout his entire body. What Min received was not money, but a miraculous peace. When we maintain a pure heart, every action we take becomes a lamp illuminating life. The other person received their property back, but more importantly, they received back faith in humanity. As for Min, he received profound peace within his own heart. That is an invisible blessing that only those who have experienced it can truly understand. That story reminds us that among the countless choices we make every day, simply maintaining a pure heart adds a measure of peace to our own lives and the lives of others. To nurture that purity, we don't need to wait for grand situations. Every day, we can practice very small things, perhaps a sincere word instead of a casual lie, a gentle smile instead of an annoyed frown, a small act of sharing instead of selfishly keeping things to ourselves. These seemingly trivial things are the seeds sown in the soil of the soul, and from them, peace blossoms and bears fruit. Keeping our heart pure is like keeping a source of clean water, so that both tears and smiles become pristine. If you are listening now, try closing your eyes and taking a deep breath. Feel the cool breeze on your skin. Feel your heartbeat. Imagine a small lamp in your heart. Its light is gentle, but never extinguishes. Every time you choose honesty instead of deceit, that lamp shines a little brighter. Every time you share instead of being selfish, that light expands a little further. And every time you forgive, your heart becomes a little warmer. Just a few minutes of mindful breathing like that, and you will have nourished the light within your own heart. Someone might say that being too honest in this day and age means taking a loss. But no, that loss is only superficial. The greatest gain is the tranquility in your soul. Others may judge and compare, but only you know how you are truly living. When you keep your heart pure, you may be poor in material possessions, but not in character. You may have little money, but not little love. And that very purity attracts good karmic connections, because the law of cause and effect has never been wrong. Sow a good seed, and it will surely sprout goodness. So the lesson from Min's story doesn't stop at the wallet or the 20 million dong. It's a reminder that amidst the struggles, keep a clear space within yourself. Believe that this life still holds many kind hearts, and you too can be one of those lights. When you keep your heart pure, you not only find peace for yourself, but also become a refuge for others. The ancients said, "When the heart is bright, the scenery is also bright." The world around us becomes more beautiful, not because it is inherently perfect, but because we look at it with the clear eyes of love. When we keep our heart pure, we keep the light of life. And in that light, worries naturally recede, and happiness naturally blossoms. The Zen Buddhist channel hopes that you will gently smile and promise yourself that tomorrow you will live a little more authentically, love a little more, and be a little more patient. That is how we keep the lamp of our heart shining brightly, illuminating the way for us and for those around us. My dear friend, have you ever sat alone on a quiet afternoon, looking back at the journey you've traveled, and felt your heart swell with regret? It could be a word you didn't get to say, a hug you didn't get to give, or a missed appointment. We often carry so many regrets that sometimes we forget that the present is the most precious gift. Humans have a habit of looking back at the past like an old movie, where every tear, every smile, every wound, every moment that seemed to have faded reappears vividly. And while we dwell on those memories, the present moment silently slips away like a river that waits for no one. The ancients said, "The past is a rain that has stopped. Even if you chase it, you cannot catch every raindrop. The future is like a distant sky. We cannot see it, cannot grasp it. But the present is a blooming flower, a shining sun, a heartbeat in your chest." Yet, we often live as if the present doesn't exist, sometimes immersing ourselves in regrets, sometimes letting worries for tomorrow gnaw at our souls. Happiness, therefore, becomes something too distant, while it is still right within our grasp. There is a story that always moves me whenever I recall it, the story of Mr. Fuchs, a successful man wholeheartedly devoted to his work, hoping to provide for his family, and give his son a bright future. Every day he was busy, leaving early and returning late, promising his son, "Tomorrow, Dad will take you out to play," or "Next week, Dad will have more time for you." But those promises kept extending like an invisible thread never to be fulfilled. His son grew up and went to study abroad. Only then did he realize that the empty house not only lacked laughter, but also a part of his son's memories with him. One day, he sat alone, looking at old photos. He saw the child who used to wait for him on the porch had grown up, and the brief time they had together was now lost. He suddenly understood that happiness was not in a distant tomorrow, but in the quiet moments right beside him, where tiny hands once held his, where clear eyes once waited for him to come home. Sadly, by the time he realized this, all he had left was regret. We may not be exactly like Mr. Fuck, but to some extent, everyone has lived with regret at least once. We regret not caring enough for our parents, regret losing a friendship, regret not keeping a promise. We regret letting loved ones quietly drift away. However, the most important thing is that from these regrets, we can learn a lesson to cherish the present so as not to miss out anymore. In Buddhist teachings, there is a profound concept: impermanence. Everything in life changes. Nothing is permanent. Flowers bloom and wither. People meet and part. Things come together and dissolve. Therefore, living in the present becomes a miracle that prevents us from being swept away by the current of impermanence. The Buddha once taught that when we dwell in the present moment, undisturbed by the past or the future, that is when our minds are truly filled with peace. Just imagine if every morning we wake up and smile at the sky and say thank you for having another day to live, how different life would be. We would find happiness in a hot cup of tea, in a simple meal, in the eyes of loved ones, in things that seem very ordinary. Conversely, if we always think about needing to be more successful tomorrow, earn more money, achieve this or that, then the simple happiness right before our eyes will slip away. There is a small practice you can try right now. Close your eyes, relax your whole body, and inhale deeply. As you inhale, feel the cool, fresh air entering your chest. As you exhale, smile and let go of all worries in your mind. Just a few minutes like this, and you will feel your mind lighter, like a leaf falling onto calm water. Then, open your eyes and look around. You will find your familiar room becomes warmer, the light through the window brighter, and your heart also softens. That is the moment you are living in the present. Cherishing the present also means knowing how to love and care for those who are with you. Because sometimes a phone call, checking in, a hand held, or a timely apology can become the most precious memory. Don't be like Mr. Fuchs, who only realized happiness wasn't something grand when it was lost, but rather enjoying every small moment, so that when you look back, you have no regrets. People often say, live as if today is your last day, not out of fear, but to truly cherish the moment. Remember that every breath is a miracle. If one day you feel unsteady, remind yourself, the past is gone like a stopped rain. The future is still far away. Only the present is the gift that is here now. Open your arms to receive that gift with all your love and gratitude. And I want to send you a message. Don't live in regret, nor place all your hopes on an uncertain future. Train your mind to stay with this moment, so that your smile becomes complete, so that every step becomes serene, so that your heart is always overflowing with peace. Because when you live fully in the present, you will see that happiness is not far away, but right here, in every breath, in every simple moment of life. Have you noticed that the older we get, the harder it is to reach happiness? When we were children, an ice cream cone was enough to make us overjoyed. An afternoon flying kites in the field was enough to make our hearts pound. Yet as adults, happiness seems to become more distant. We keep chasing it, but it's never enough. We believe that we need a lot of money to be happy. We need a big house, a luxurious car to be admired by others. Then, in that vicious cycle, we forget that happiness never went far. It lies in every simplest moment, in a meal filled with laughter, in a hot cup of tea in the morning, in the loving eyes of those we cherish. People suffer not because they don't have, but because they want too much. In this vast sea of humanity, everyone carries different desires in their hearts. The poor wish for money. The rich wish for health. The lonely wish for love. Those who have love wish for it to never change. Thus, suffering does not lie in what we lack, but in our constant feeling of not having enough. The Buddha once taught that craving is one of the roots of suffering because desires are boundless, while human life is finite. Only when we know how to stop, how to be content, will our minds be at peace, and happiness will manifest. I remember once listening to an old woman in the neighborhood tell stories. She said, "In the old days, we were very poor. All year round, we only had sweet potatoes and cassava. Sometimes, a meal was just a little boiled morning glory with a bowl of fish sauce. Yet the whole family gathered, warm and cozy." She said happiness back then was incredibly simple because people didn't compare themselves to neighbors, didn't chase after appearances, and just looking at each other's smiles was enough to make their hearts light. Now that she has more, she misses the warmth of those old days. Her words made me ponder that sometimes we lose the simplicity in life and then push ourselves into the cycle of ambition and comparison. There's a story about Ms. Huang that I want to tell you. She is a woman living on the outskirts of the city. Her family was poor. Her husband worked as a bricklayer. She sold goods at the market. Life was difficult. Each family meal consisted only of vegetables, a bit of salty, dried fish, sometimes with some salted eggplant. Yet, her small house was always filled with laughter. Children chirped around their parents. The simple meal was as warm as a festival. One day, a wealthy neighbor invited her to a party. It was a lavish meal, with tables laden with delicacies and plenty of fine wine. But in that spacious room, there was a lack of genuine laughter, everyone on their phones, exchanging a few indifferent pleasantries. When she returned home, sitting down to a meal of vegetables and pickles with her husband and children, Ms. Huang suddenly smiled because she realized that happiness was not in a grand feast, but in the moments of living with loved ones, hearing the clear laughter of children. If you look deeply, you will see that happiness is always present. But we often overlook it because we keep looking too far away, like searching for a flower on a mountaintop and forgetting the one blooming right by the roadside. A person who knows sufficiency is one who knows how to stop to admire the flower, inhale its fragrance, and cherish every moment. A person who does not know sufficiency, even if standing in a flower garden, will still feel a lack because their heart is never at rest. You can try a small practice to nurture simple happiness. Choose any moment in your day. Perhaps it's when you drink a cup of tea or when you sit down for a meal with your family. Instead of letting your mind wander in 1,000 directions, stop, take a deep breath, and fully experience what you have. Feel the tea's aroma spreading, the warm cup touching your lips. Feel the children's laughter, the sound of spoons hitting bowls, the loving gaze of your family. Just a few minutes of dwelling in the present like that, and you'll feel your heart peaceful and happy. Life is like a book. Each page is a day lived. If we keep waiting until the last page to find happiness, we will miss all the beautiful things present on every page. A wise person is someone who knows how to read slowly, how to enjoy every line, every small detail. Simple happiness is like that. It's not about waiting for a brilliant chapter at the end, but about cherishing every sentence, every word right now. You see, when we were small, happiness was just a sweet candy, a mother's hug. As we grew up, we thought happiness had to be something grand. But after so much striving, we realized that living simply is true happiness. Less craving, more contentment. That is the key to opening the door to peace in the soul. So don't worry too much if you don't have everything yet, because you may already have the most precious things that many others out there yearn for. Try closing your eyes for a moment. Think of your parents, your loved ones. Think of your small, warm home. If a faint smile arises in your heart, that is the simple happiness you have been searching for all along. Practice living simply, craving less, and nurturing contentment. When you learn to appreciate a meal of vegetables and pickles, a cup of tea in the morning, or a moment of gathering with loved ones, you will find yourself richer than anyone. And then happiness will no longer be a distant dream, but a cool spring flowing eternally in your heart. My dear friend, in the long journey of life, perhaps each of us has, to some extent, carried wounds in our hearts. These could be wounds from the betrayal of someone once deeply trusted. It could be the pain of a careless word that cut like a sharp knife to the heart. It could also be the disappointment when a dream is crushed by someone's indifference. Humans live in this vast sea of life, like small leaves drifting on a current. It's hard to avoid collisions, hard to avoid being hurt at times. And then, sometimes, we carry grudges, resentments, feelings that are not easy to let go of. We think that by holding on to that anger, our hearts will be protected. But in reality, the tighter we cling, the heavier our souls become, and the more we suffer. Deep down, everyone longs to be loved, to be cherished. Yet, precisely when we are hurt, we forget that love also has another face: forgiveness. Forgiveness is not always easy, because forgiveness requires us to be brave, to let go of our wounded ego, to look at others with understanding and compassion. Forgiveness is not because the other person deserves to be forgiven, but because we ourselves deserve a peaceful heart. Only when we know how to forgive can we open the door for our souls to be at ease, like rain washing away a layer of dust, leaving behind a clear blue sky. Have you ever felt trapped in a cycle of resentment? As if today you are angry, tomorrow you still remember. A month from now, a year from now, that memory still aches like an unhealed wound. And while you cling to that pain, the person who hurt you sometimes no longer cares or has long forgotten. So, who is truly suffering? It is us. Forgiveness, seen through the compassionate light of Buddhist teachings, is a gift we give ourselves. Because when we forgive, we are not doing a favor for someone else, but saving our own heart, which is imprisoned in the dungeon of resentment. I want to tell you the story of Mr. Tung and a close friend. When they were young, they shared many beautiful memories, helped each other with studies and work, and regarded each other as brothers. Then, one day, that friend encountered difficulties and came to Tung to borrow a large sum of money. Tung trusted him without question, giving his friend the money with sincerity. However, afterward, his friend disappeared without a trace, leaving without a word of farewell. The pain in Tung's heart was not just the loss of money, but also the loss of a friendship. He was angry, resentful, felt deeply betrayed, and hurt. Many years passed, and whenever he recalled it, Tung's heart remained heavy, still aching. Then, one day, that friend returned and sought out Tung, his eyes filled with remorse. He apologized, admitted his mistake, and hoped for forgiveness. In that moment, Tung faced two choices: either cling to resentment forever, or let go of everything. After moments of contemplation, he chose to forgive. Not because his friend deserved it, but because he didn't want to imprison his heart in the dungeon of resentment any longer. When he spoke the words of forgiveness, tears fell, but they were tears of liberation. He felt a door open in his heart, as if he had lifted a heavy stone that had weighed on his chest for many years. That story offers us a profound lesson. Forgiveness is not forgetting, much less condoning mistakes. Forgiveness is when we choose not to let the wound continue to bleed. Forgiveness is when we understand that everyone in life makes mistakes, and resentment brings nothing but suffering to ourselves. Forgiveness is a healing medicine, but this medicine only works when we willingly take it, when we truly want our souls to be at peace. In Buddhist teachings, forgiveness is an expression of compassion. The Buddha once taught that if we cling to hatred, it is like holding a burning coal in our hand to throw at someone else. The other person may get burned, but the first person to get burned is us. Therefore, forgiveness is not only forgiving others, but forgiving ourselves. When we know how to let go, our hearts will be as light as a cloud. If you are currently carrying resentment or a painful memory in your heart, I invite you to try a small practice. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and exhale gently. Imagine a flower in your heart closing up because it has been hurt. Each slow breath you take will be a drop of cool water, nourishing that flower. Silently tell yourself, I forgive, not for others, but because I want to be free. I let go because I want to be at peace. Continue breathing like this for just a few minutes, and you will feel your heart gradually lighten, like the wind sweeping away dark clouds, leaving behind a clear blue sky. Forgiveness is a journey, sometimes not achievable in just a day or an evening. Perhaps today you forgive, and tomorrow sadness floods back. But don't get discouraged too quickly. Continue to practice. Continue to remind yourself that each act of forgiveness is a step closer to peace. Each act of letting go is a time you sow another seed of happiness in your soul. And when those seeds sprout, you will see your life like a garden full of fragrant, peaceful flowers. In life, sometimes yielding a little, being patient a little, is enough to lighten our hearts. Don't think that forgiveness is weakness. On the contrary, forgiveness is the strength of resilient hearts, of vast souls. Forgiveness is wisdom. It is compassion. It is the key that opens the door to peace. Because when we learn to love others, we are also learning to love ourselves. You can start with very small things. Forgive a loved one for a careless word. Forgive a friend for some oversight. Forgive yourself for past stumbles. Life is inherently impermanent. What is here today may be gone tomorrow. So why should we imprison our hearts in useless worries? Let each day that passes be a light one, a day we smile because we have learned to forgive. My dear friend, love and forgiveness are truly healing remedies for the soul. When you sow the seeds of love, when you choose to forgive, you are sowing a seed of peace for your own life. And once the mind is at peace, everything else will also be at peace. Let this saying be a gentle stopping point for today's segment. Forgiveness is not erasing others' mistakes, but erasing the shackles that bind your own heart. Perhaps all of us, at some point, have fleetingly thought that life passes too quickly. Just yesterday, we were enthusiastic teenagers, then frantic in our 30s, and suddenly, looking back, our hair has silver strands, our form no longer as it was. Half a lifetime passes, and we suddenly realize that what we thought was precious turns out not to be what we truly needed. People often say that when we are young, we chase after money, fame, and status. We want to be recognized, to be known by many, to have a beautiful house, a luxurious car, to stand at the highest point in our careers, to feel worthy. Yet, when we reach midlife, when we have achieved all those things, or sometimes even failed to achieve our dreams, we realize a simple truth. What we need most is not money nor fame, but a calm heart, a peaceful soul. There are people who travel their whole lives, but the further they go, the more tired they feel. In the noisy city, they feel lost. In the bustling crowd, they still feel lonely. Because when the heart is not at peace, no matter how much money is in hand, how much wealth is accumulated, we still cannot find joy. The Buddha once taught that money and fame are just like a passing breeze, like bubbles on a lake, sparkling one moment and then vanishing. If we rely on them, sooner or later we will suffer. But if we know how to find ourselves again, how to cherish every peaceful moment, then our minds will be at peace, our lives will be at peace, and everything around us will gradually become gentler. The Lin Ung Buddhist channel recalls the story of Ms. Yen, a woman I once met. She worked for over 30 years in the banking industry, spending her youth and middle age amidst numbers, financial pressures, intense meetings, and chasing targets. She once believed that money was power, money was security, money was happiness. Yet, when she retired, When she stepped away from that cycle, she clearly saw one thing. It turned out that a lot of money was meaningless if her health was depleted, if her heart was no longer excited, if her mind was still burdened with meaningless worries. After leaving her job, she chose a different life. Every morning, she woke up early to the garden, pulling weeds and planting a few more flowers. At noon, she cooked a simple meal, sometimes just boiled vegetables with fish sauce, sometimes a refreshing soup. In the afternoon, she picked up her grandchild from school, listening to innocent laughter echoing in the yard. In the evening, she sat on the porch, watching the moon rise, letting her soul drift with the sound of the wind. People looking in might see it as an ordinary life, even simple to the point of being boring. But in Ms. Yen's eyes, I saw a rare contentment. No more striving, no more overwhelming numbers, no more sleepless nights over unfinished contracts. Instead, there was a peaceful heart, a gentle smile, a serene soul. In the latter half of life, everyone should learn to live like this. Serenity does not mean giving up. Joy does not mean abandoning everything. Serenity is knowing that everything comes and goes. Nothing lasts forever, so there is no need to cling. Joy is knowing that in every small moment, we can still find happiness, even if it's just from a flower blooming on the porch, a hot cup of tea in the morning, or a loving call from someone we cherish. A person with money can buy a big house, but cannot buy peace of mind. A person with power can control others, but cannot control the aging of time. Only a peaceful mind can keep a person from constant worry. If you are entering middle age, or have passed it, try to pause for a moment. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and exhale slowly. In that moment, listen to your heartbeat, listen to your breath, and ask yourself, what do I truly need? If the answer is money, think of the sleepless nights, the pressure, and the stress. If the answer is fame, think of the moments of loneliness in a crowd, the emptiness after applause. And if the answer is peace, let your mind naturally relax like a flowing river, unhurried, unforced. Perhaps you're not used to it. Perhaps you find it difficult because we are accustomed to the cycle, accustomed to haste. But just as a seed sown in the ground needs time to sprout, so too does tranquility need patience to return. Each day, take a few minutes for quiet introspection. Sit down, put away your phone, close your eyes, and breathe. Just 3 deep breaths, and you will feel a little lighter. If possible, write down one thing you are grateful for that day. Perhaps it's your health, a friend checking in, or simply that you still have food to eat and a place to sleep today. When we are grateful, our hearts naturally settle, no longer craving too much. The lesson Ms. Yen left behind is simple yet profound. Money will eventually disappear, and fame will fade. But inner peace is the truly lasting asset. Only in midlife do people understand that the most important thing is not how much you have in your hand, but how much peace you have in your heart. Therefore, learn to live slowly, live mindfully, live sufficiently, live gratefully. Sow seeds of joy in your heart so that each day that passes, you can smile gently. And dear friend, if you can today, sit down one more time. Let go of all worries. Allow yourself to be at peace for a moment. because that very moment will be the greatest gift you give to your life. Peace is not far away. It lies right within every breath, every smile in your heart. There are days we sit quietly, watching life flow by, and suddenly feel a heaviness in our hearts. People are often just a step, a smile, a word apart, yet sometimes they become strangers, indifferent, even hostile. We wonder why, in this vast sea of humanity, we still feel lonely, still feel a visible wall separating us from those around us. That wall is not built of bricks and stone, but of misunderstandings, superficial judgments, of hasty assessments of others without taking the time to listen or understand. No one in this world is exactly alike. Everyone carries a unique story. Some are smiling, but secretly harbor deep wounds. Some appear strong, but are actually so fragile that even a thoughtless word can bring them to tears. If we only look at the surface, we are easily mistaken, easily critical, and easily cause more suffering to each other. It is this lack of understanding that often leads people into distress, living in conflict, blame, and alienation. Buddha taught that life is impermanent. All things and phenomena arise from conditions. People meet and stay together because of conditions. But to maintain that connection beautifully and lastingly, there needs to be empathy. Understanding and empathy are the wings that carry our souls over barriers. It's like a bridge connecting two distant shores, allowing two hearts to meet, allowing the light of compassion to shine into the darkness of suspicion. Without that bridge, we will only stand and watch each other from two banks, separated by a cold river of misunderstanding and clinging. I want to tell you a short story about a boy named Nam and his grumpy neighbor. Nam was a cheerful boy who loved to run, jump, and play soccer with his friends. Right next to Nam's house lived a neighbor who always seemed annoyed. Whenever he heard the sound of the ball rolling, the neighbor would frown, sometimes yelling and scolding. At first, Nam was very angry. He thought the neighbor was selfish, not liking children playing. Resentment flared in Nam's heart. He mumbled unhappily while kicking the ball. But one day, through his mother's words, Nam learned that the neighbor had suffered from insomnia for many years. Any loud noise would keep him awake all night, and his health was deteriorating. From the moment he understood, Nam was no longer angry. He and his friends found another place to play, and sometimes he would even pick flowers from the garden and bring them to the neighbor. Strangely, from then on, the neighbor rarely scolded him. He even smiled and greeted Nam. A once tense relationship suddenly became light and warm. That simple story contains a profound lesson. When we know how to put ourselves in someone else's shoes, we will see their suffering. Then, instead of reacting with anger, we choose to respond with empathy. And that is what dissolves the distance, opening the path of love. In life, sometimes we are like Nam, quick to blame without fully understanding the circumstances. Sometimes we are like the grumpy neighbor, living in suffering and unintentionally causing others pain. Regardless of our position, if there is a lack of understanding, relationships can easily fracture. But with empathy, a seemingly small thing is enough to change the whole atmosphere, transforming tension into harmony and strangeness into familiarity. Understanding and empathy are not distant concepts, nor are they profound philosophies. They are lessons from everyday experiences. Seeing parents quietly stay up late and wake up early for us, we understand unspoken love. Seeing friends sometimes irritable due to pressure, we know that behind it are worries we haven't had a chance to share. Seeing a beggar sitting silently by the roadside, we feel the impermanence, fragility, and many pains of human life. Every tear we encounter, every smile we see, is a part of the human story, reminding us to open our hearts to understand. Buddha taught that all sentient beings wish for happiness and do not wish for suffering. If we look with eyes of compassion, we will realize that all actions, even mistaken ones, stem from some form of suffering. The person who speaks harsh words may be hurting. The person who acts selfishly may never have been loved enough. When we understand this, we no longer feel much anger. Instead, there is a quiet empathy, a reminder to forgive and love more. You can try a small practice right now. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and exhale gently. With each breath, think of someone you have a conflict with, perhaps a family member, a friend, or a colleague. Imagine that they also have their own sufferings that you have never known. Send them a silent wish. May you be at peace. May your suffering lessen. Practicing this not only helps you feel lighter, but also opens a path to healing, even if you don't say a word directly. Through the years, we will realize that empathy is a precious gift that can be given. It costs nothing, but it has infinite healing power. A moment of understanding patience can save a lonely soul. A nod of empathy can lighten someone's sorrow. Empathy is like sunlight. When it shines, darkness has no place to hide. And then we realize that happiness is not just joy for ourselves, but also the peace of mind that comes from seeing others smile. Peace of mind comes not only from letting go of worries, but also from sowing seeds of empathy in life, so that every step we take leaves a trace of love. So remember, whenever you feel like blaming someone, pause for a moment, breathe slowly, and try to put yourself in their shoes. Perhaps, for just an instant, you will feel your heart soften, like a flower petal gently opening in the early morning sun. And from there, barriers will naturally dissolve, leaving only a bridge called understanding, bringing us closer to the hearts of others. I hope you can keep this small reminder. When we understand and empathize, we are not only easing the pain of others, but also easing our own souls. Because in the cycle of karma and conditions, every seed of compassion we sow today will become a peaceful fruit tomorrow. May you always find peace in every breath and know how to sow seeds of empathy in every moment of this life. There are times in life when we feel trapped in a dark room. The windows are sealed, the door is locked. We circle in our own darkness, breathing in the damp scent of worries. At such times, we often ask ourselves, why is everything like this? Why am I caught in these inescapable bonds? In truth, everyone holds 3 keys to freedom in their hands. They are acceptance, change, and letting go. Each key is like a different opening, but the common thread is that they all lead us out of the vicious cycle of suffering. For those who know how to use them at the right time and in the right way, their minds will be at peace, and life will be less precarious. Acceptance is when we open our hearts, no longer resisting or blaming. It's like standing in the rain. Instead of complaining that the sky isn't sunny, we open an umbrella and accept the cool freshness of the raindrops. There are things we cannot force, like a bitterly cold winter day or a yellow leaf falling from a branch. Acceptance does not mean giving up, but stopping, looking deeply, and assenting to the truth. When the mind does not resist, we naturally suffer less. But sometimes acceptance is not enough. Some situations require change. Change is not always a grand undertaking. Sometimes it's just a small adjustment in how we behave, in our habits, in our thoughts. Like a carpenter reshaping a warped piece of wood to fit into a frame, like a mother changing her way of teaching her children from scolding to listening. Change is how we open another bright door in a dark room. And if acceptance isn't possible and change is useless, then the last resort is to let go. Letting go is not cowardice. It's not giving up. It's a courageous choice, like a bird leaving its nest to find a wider sky. Letting go could be a relationship, a job, an environment that stifles us. Only when we know how to let go can we preserve peace for ourselves. I remember the story of Miss Thu, who went through a marriage full of conflict. For many years, living with an ill-tempered husband, she tried to accept, to patiently endure every harsh word. She thought that family happiness required sacrifice. Then she tried to change, sitting down to talk, hoping that the other heart would listen. But many dialogues turned into bigger arguments. She understood that some people cannot change. Some hearts do not want to listen. So she chose to leave. The day she left the old house, her eyes were red, but her steps were light. She said, "I didn't choose divorce out of hatred. I chose it because I wanted my children and me to be at peace." That statement rang like a bell, reminding us that happiness is not about clinging, but sometimes about knowing when to let go. Buddha taught that all phenomena are impermanent. Nothing lasts forever, and no one belongs to anyone for an entire lifetime. Therefore, clinging to things beyond our control only causes more suffering. If we try to hold water, it will still flow through our fingers. If we grasp at a gust of wind, it will still slip away. The mind is truly at peace only when we know that some things come to teach us to accept. Some things come to teach us to change. And some things come only to teach us to let go. If you are in a difficult situation, try to pause for a few minutes. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Let the fresh air enter your lungs, soothing the worries in your mind. As you exhale, imagine you are releasing resentments, worries, like thin wisps of smoke dissolving into the void. Every day, just spend a few minutes sitting still, breathing, and smiling, and you will find your mind gradually calming down. Meditation is not about sitting for hours in a temple. Meditation can begin with a peaceful breath in your own small room. You can try writing on a piece of paper. What did I accept today? What did I change? And what do I need to let go of? These 3 questions will help you reflect on your life, like holding a flashlight in the dark. Perhaps you will realize that you have suffered too much simply because you refused to pick up the right key. Acceptance, change, letting go. These 3 keys not only open the door to peace, but also to wisdom. Those who know how to accept learn patience. Those who know how to change learn maturity. Those who know how to let go learn freedom. All three combined constitute the journey that brings us back to our tranquil inner self. Life is like a river, with some sections calm, some turbulent. A skilled swimmer is not someone who never encounters waves, but someone who knows when to go with the flow, when to change direction, and when to swim to shore to rest. Life is the same. Happiness is not about living quietly or calmly, but about holding these three keys in your hand so you don't get submerged. If today you feel tired, please remember, you don't have to struggle against everything. Choose to live more gently. Accept what cannot be changed. Be courageous enough to change what can be changed, and serenely let go of what does not belong to you. Peace is a gift that does not come from outside, but blossoms from within. When we know how to let go at the right time, I hope that on your life's journey, you will always remember to carry these three precious keys. And whenever you feel lost, stop. Place your hand on your chest. Listen to your heartbeat to remind yourself that I can accept, I can change, and I can also let go. From there, when the mind is at peace, all things will be at peace. Have you ever sat alone on a late afternoon, watching the sunlight fade behind the rooftops, and felt a heavy sensation in your heart, as if everything happening in life was beyond your control, with worries piling up and fatigue surrounding you? There are days when we want to give up, to cry loudly to lighten our hearts, but then we only sigh quietly. In the cycle of life, everyone, to some extent, has experienced such dark, quiet moments. We suffer from dissatisfaction, from unexpected misfortunes, from unforeseen losses. Yet, do you believe that just 3 simple words, 3 seemingly small words, can become the key to opening the door to peace for a trembling heart? That is the mantra. Don't worry, it will pass. Life is inherently a river that flows endlessly, never stopping. Even if the water is murky today from heavy rain and strong winds, tomorrow the river surface will calm and become clear again. Suffering, misfortune, failure, or joy, happiness, success, all follow the law of impermanence that the Buddha taught. Nothing lasts forever. Nothing is immutable. No suffering can cling to us for an entire lifetime. The only question is whether we have enough faith, enough patience, and enough stillness to get through it. When we remind ourselves of that mantra, we are sowing a seed of peace in our hearts, reminding ourselves that everything is just like clouds passing across the sky. There's no need to cling, no need to worry too much. I remember the story of a man named Kwang. He was a young man who lived wholeheartedly for his work and family. One afternoon, on his usual road, he had a traffic accident. The strong impact broke his leg and caused multiple injuries, forcing him to stay in the hospital for many months. In the first few days, physical pain tormented him, and his spirit wavered. At times, he despaired, wondering why such misfortune had befallen him. Why had all his cherished plans suddenly vanished like smoke? But then, during the long nights spent alone in his hospital room, listening to the steady hum of machines, he began to whisper to himself, "Don't worry, it will pass." That phrase was initially just a simple comfort, but repeated over and over, it became a source of strength that lifted him. By maintaining an optimistic spirit, he recovered faster than doctors predicted. And most of all, he learned to view life with a different perspective, lighter, more generous, more serene. You see, people suffer not only from existing pain, but even more from their minds clinging to it, stirring up questions in their heads. Why so? Why me? Will I get through this? The deeper we dig, the more we fall into a vicious cycle. But when we gently relax, telling ourselves that everything will pass, our minds open up, our breath becomes lighter, and that very energy of peace helps our bodies gradually recover. Just as a seed needs sunlight to grow, the human spirit needs faith and serenity to rise after every fall. Perhaps you are going through some upheaval in your life. Perhaps your job is unstable, your family isn't peaceful, or a broken relationship has left a deep wound in your heart. You feel exhausted. You feel there's no way out. But please try. Just try. Closing your eyes and breathing slowly, then gently whispering that mantra. You don't have to immediately believe that everything will be okay. Just let that phrase seep into every breath, like a gentle breeze flowing through a crack in the door, soothing the suffocating heat in the room of your mind. Believe that everything will change. No darkness can forever obscure the sun. The Buddha once taught that all phenomena are impermanent. Suffering, like joy, are just waves that rise and then vanish. When you are suffering, you think it will last forever. But in reality, it is only a small part of the book of life you are writing. Each chapter has a beginning and an end. If this chapter has many tears, the next chapter might be filled with laughter. And to turn to a new page, you need patience and faith. Those 3 words, don't worry, are a gentle reminder that you are strong enough to walk through the darkness and find the light again. If you wish, right now, you can try a small practice. Place your hand on your chest, close your eyes, and inhale deeply. Feel the cool, fresh air entering your lungs. Exhale slowly, relaxing your whole body. Each time you exhale, whisper in your mind, "Don't worry, it will pass." Repeat this 3, 5, 10 times, and you will feel a small space within your heart begin to light up, like a candle illuminating a dark room. That candle is faith, serenity, the ability to heal yourself that all of us possess. Someone once asked, "How can I be sure that it will pass?" The answer lies in every everyday experience. Do you remember? When you were little, a scrape on your knee would make you hurt and cry. You thought you could never run and jump like before. But then the wound healed, you forgot, and only a faint scar remained. Or like the times you failed at work. At that moment, it seemed hopeless. But as time passed, you found a new path, sometimes even better than what you had hoped for. All these things are proof that nothing lasts forever. If joy cannot stay with us forever, then sorrow cannot hold us captive for an entire lifetime. So instead of resisting, learn to breathe with the flow. When the wind picks up, don't try to struggle against it. Let the sail carry you far, and believe that calm skies will soon return. Don't worry too much about the small things that can hurt you. Because when your mind is vast, any storm becomes a speck of dust in the evening wind. After leaving the hospital, Quang recounted that the accident, which seemed like an end, turned out to be a beginning. It helped him see life differently, to appreciate every morning he woke up, to smile more, to love those around him. He said that simple mantra brought him back from the depths of despair to the light. And he believes that if everyone knew to remind themselves of that phrase, many more hearts would be saved from darkness. My dear friend, life does not promise us that tomorrow will be free of storms, but life gives us the opportunity to learn how to walk through the storm and still keep the flame of peace burning. 3 small words, don't worry, are the protective cloak that allows us to walk steadily. When you carry this mantra in your heart, you will find everything lighter. You will no longer be easily swept into the vortex of suffering. You will understand that happiness is not the absence of difficulties, but knowing that difficulties are also just a part of the journey, and they will pass. I just want to send you a very gentle message. No matter how tired you are today, please gently close your eyes and breathe with that mantra. Let it soothe your heart like cool water, washing away dust. Don't worry, it will pass. And when everything has passed, you will realize that in the deepest parts of suffering, the seed of happiness is silently sown, waiting for the day to sprout into peace. My dear friend, have you ever found yourself sitting quietly in a small corner, tears falling unseen? Sometimes sadness comes unexpectedly, like a summer rain. We think we are strong. We think we are mature enough to overcome all storms. But then just one stumble, one failure, can make our hearts tremble and weaken. Crying is perhaps the only way to release the heaviness in our hearts. Yet people often think that crying is a sign of weakness. But in reality, strength doesn't mean never crying. It means that after shedding tears, we know how to dry them, how to get up, and move forward. In life, no one avoids stumbling. They are like stones scattered on our path, causing us to trip and hurt ourselves. But without those stones, we would never learn how to balance, nor would we ever learn lessons about patience and growth. Pain, even if it makes us fall, is what makes us stronger. Like a tree struggling through a storm, leaves may tear, branches may break, but the trunk becomes sturdier, its roots digging deeper into the earth. Remember that every scar in our heart carries meaning. It is proof that we have weathered storms, dared to face challenges, and learned something for ourselves. Perhaps yesterday we fell in tears, but today we ourselves rise with a calm and prouder smile. Because in life, failure is not an end. It is merely a comma in the book of life. It only pauses the rhythm temporarily, giving us more time to reflect, to prepare for a brighter, new chapter. I want to tell you the story of Ha, a young girl full of dreams. That year, Ha placed all her trust in the university entrance exam, hoping to enter her dream school. However, the results were not as she hoped. The day she learned she failed, Ha cried a lot. Tears fell so much that her pillow was soaked. Her heart felt shattered. She felt worthless. Her future seemed to collapse before her eyes. But after days spent in disappointment, Ha decided to wipe away her tears. she chose a different path for herself. She began to study harder, more disciplined, and more patiently. A year later, Ha walked into the exam room with a different mindset. This time, she succeeded. But the most precious thing was not just the ticket to university, but the maturity, patience, and courage she gained after her first fall in life. Ha's story is like many of ours. Failure makes us cry. But when we wipe away our tears, get up, and keep going, what we gain is a new person, more mature, more resilient. Buddha taught that suffering is an inevitable part of human life. Without suffering, how can we understand the value of happiness? Without failure, how can we appreciate our successes? The precious thing is not a life without ever falling, but knowing how to get up after every fall. That is the true strength of a human being. When facing suffering, you can try to sit in stillness. Inhale deeply. Exhale slowly. Each breath like cool water, washing away worries. Let your tears fall mindfully. Don't suppress them. Don't be ashamed of them. And then imagine yourself wiping away those tears with your own hands, as you would remove layers of dust covering your heart. A small practice that can help you recover is to write down the things that hurt you. Then, next to them, write down what you learned from that experience. Perhaps at first, you will only see loss, but gradually you will realize that somewhere, a tiny seed of a lesson is sprouting in your pain. A strong person is not someone who has never cried, but someone who knows how to wipe away their tears and move forward. You can stumble 10 times, but if you dare to get up 11 times, nothing can defeat you. No one in this world can avoid challenges, but the most important thing is how we face them. If you keep clinging to sadness, you will be trapped in a vicious cycle of suffering. But if you know how to wipe away your tears, offer a smile, and walk on, then at that very moment, you have sown a seed of happiness in your soul. So if you are sad, allow yourself to cry. If you are hurting, give your heart space to breathe. But after that, don't forget to get up. Don't let tears blur the light of tomorrow. No matter how many storms this life brings, the sun will still rise every morning. Believe that after every rain, a rainbow will appear again. And after every time you wipe away your tears, a new chapter of your life will open, bright and full of hope. I hope you will never forget. Strength is not about not crying, but about knowing how to wipe away tears and keep walking. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to be at peace. And you deserve to walk your life's path with a proud heart. May blessings be upon you, so that every step forward is light and firm, like a lotus rising from the mud, yet still fragrant in the sunlight. Have you ever sat quietly alone, looking back at the life you've lived, and wondered what truly constitutes the meaning of human life? We are often busy searching for happiness, longing for a complete and prosperous life. We wish to own many things to prove our success. But then, when we hold what we once yearned for, we still feel a lack, still not enough. Happiness seems to be right in front of us, but is as fragile as a flower petal. Just a gentle breeze is enough to make it slip from our hands. And so, people remain immersed in the vicious cycle of desire and comparison. Obtaining something then losing it again. Human life is finite. Time passes like a river flowing endlessly towards the vast sea, never turning back. So what is truly worth cherishing? Is it money, fame, accolades, or praise from others? These things can make us proud for a while. But think about it. When one day we close our eyes forever, will we carry anything with us other than love and the imprint of the good deeds we've done? The Buddha once taught that all phenomena are impermanent. What is born will die, but only wholesome karma, a kind heart, and love endure. Happiness is not about hoarding a lot for oneself, but about knowing how to share, how to give, how to transform one's life into a field for sowing seeds of love. People often think they must have a lot before they can give. But sometimes, just a smile, a sincere word of inquiry, a small act of care is enough to warm a soul, like a candle. When a candle shares its flame to light another candle, it doesn't lose its light. It only makes the surrounding space brighter. Love is the same. The more we give, the more it grows, the more it fills our hearts. I still remember the story of old Mr. Trong in a small village by the river. He was once a teacher, dedicating his entire life to literacy, sowing knowledge for generations of students. When old age came, instead of enjoying his leisurely days with his meager pension, he used all that money to build a small house, a free classroom for poor children in the area. His house was not spacious, just a few old wooden desks and chairs, a few bookshelves he had collected. But every afternoon, the chirping voices of children studying, their joyful laughter, made the small neighborhood light up as if with new sunshine. Mr. Trong lived very simply. His meals often consisted only of halted vegetables. His clothes were worn out. Yet, every time people met him, they saw a radiant face, sparkling eyes, full of happiness. He was not rich in money, but rich in love. The whole village respected and loved him because everyone could feel his boundless heart. Mr. Trung's story is not something grand, but it left a deep impression on the hearts of those who knew him. Happiness, in truth, is that simple. It is not about how much we accumulate, but about how much we have shared. A person who lives in love, giving without calculation, is the one who holds the greatest treasure of their life. If you look deeply into your consciousness, you will see a very strange thing. Every time we selfishly hold on to something for ourselves, our soul feels constricted, cramped, breathless. But every time we open our hearts, ready to share, we immediately feel lighter, more peaceful. That is the natural law of love. Like a field, if we only keep seeds for ourselves, carefully stored in a warehouse, sooner or later, they will dry up, unable to sprout. But if we sow them in the earth and nurture them with love, they will grow lush, blossom, and then we will have even more seeds to continue sowing. The Buddha taught that compassion is the source of peace and joy. Whoever cultivates compassion, knowing how to love themselves and others, will naturally find all suffering and worries subside. Because when our heart is open, no longer clinging, no longer jealous, no longer calculating wins and losses, nothing can truly harm us. Amidst the vast sea of humanity, we become a lotus radiating fragrance, both pure and firm. To help you feel the value of love more clearly, I want to invite you to practice a small exercise. Sit down comfortably, relax your shoulders, gently close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Feel the cool, fresh air entering your chest. Exhale slowly, relaxing your whole body. As you inhale, smile and think, I am cultivating love in my heart. As you exhale, imagine you are sending that love to your parents, loved ones, friends, and even to those you have never met. Each breath is a wave of love radiating out like expanding circles throughout space. Just a few minutes of this practice every day, and you will feel your heart soften, lighten, and joy will blossom from within. When you live fully in love, you will find that life no longer holds so much dissatisfaction. Hurtful words from others will no longer cause you pain, because you understand that they too are suffering. Losses and disadvantages will no longer make you resentful, because you realize you are still fortunate to be loved and to give love. Love is like a cool, pure stream washing away all worldly dust, making the soul clear. Thus, the greatest happiness in life is not how much money you have, not sitting in a high and noble position, but knowing that you have loved and been loved. Every day, you can still smile, still hug someone, still share a small part of yourself with others. That is a truly meaningful day. You can start sowing the seeds of that happiness from very simple things. Try making a phone call to check on your parents, even if it's just for a few brief words. Smile at the vendor at the market instead of frowning when they give you the wrong item. Take a moment to listen to a sad friend instead of rushing to give advice. These small things, accumulated, will become a great light that illuminates not only your soul, but also those around you. And if one day you feel that life is very heavy, remember the image of old Mr. Trong and his small classroom. He didn't have much, but his heart was boundless. He lived fully in love, so even though his body was old, his soul still shone brightly like the sun. His story is proof that the greatest meaning of human life is not how much one achieves, but how much one gives. The Lin Buddhist channel wishes you well. May you always keep a warm heart on your life's journey, knowing how to love and how to share. May you realize that living in love is the key to a peaceful mind. And when the mind is at peace, all things will be at peace. In this life, perhaps everyone has at least once asked themselves, what exactly do I live for? Some believe that living is for money, to provide for a full family. Others think that living is to find a place in the vast sea of humanity, to prove one's worth. But many, after a long journey filled with ups and downs, eventually realize that living is simply to be at peace, to have no hidden currents tearing at the heart, to be able to smile every day and feel light. However, amidst life's busyness and dissatisfactions, maintaining inner peace is truly not easy. People often easily fall into worries because they desire too much, because they compare themselves to others, because they cling to success and failure. We often think that happiness will come when we achieve what we desire. But strangely, even when we get it, our hearts still feel empty and anxious. This is because true happiness does not lie externally, but in how we nurture our souls. Buddha taught that all is impermanent. This body, this wealth, this fame, all are like a passing breeze. What is born will die. What comes together will part. Human suffering stems from not accepting that truth, constantly wanting to cling, wanting everything to go their way. And then, when things don't go as desired, our minds become chaotic and anxious. To escape that vicious cycle, there is only one path: to learn how to sow wholesome seeds in the mind, cultivating love so that we can reap the fruits of peace. Our mind is like a piece of land. If we sow seeds of anger and resentment there, that land will grow full of thorns, hurting us every time we step on it. But if we know how to sow seeds of love, compassion, and forgiveness there, then over time they will sprout and grow, transforming the entire land into a lush garden, overflowing with fragrance and color. Happiness is not a gift brought from outside, but the fruit of wholesome seeds that we sow in our hearts every day. There is a small story I once heard about a middle-aged woman. She lived in a not-so-well-off family. Her husband passed away early, and she had to raise her child alone. In the first few months, she was consumed by tears, blaming fate. But then one morning, seeing her small child holding her hand, with innocent, clear eyes, she suddenly realized that if she continued to grieve, her child would never be happy. From then on, she began to change. She practiced smiling more, practiced sowing positive things into every day of her life. Instead of blaming, she thanked life for giving her the strength to keep going. Instead of despairing, she told herself to live happily so her child would have a support. Many years passed. She didn't become wealthy, but everyone who met her felt a warmth because she radiated an energy of peace and love. Her life is proof that sowing seeds of happiness from within is the way to overcome all suffering. You see, each of us has the right to choose. We can choose to live in resentment, in worries, so that days pass only in suffering. But we can also choose to live in gratitude, in love, so that every day is a meaningful day. The choice is ours. If you are feeling heavy-hearted now, I want to invite you to practice a small exercise. Sit down. Let go of all haste. Close your eyes and take a deep breath. As you inhale, think that you are sowing a seed of peace in your heart. As you exhale, imagine that you are giving that peace to everyone. Remind yourself, I am sowing seeds of happiness. I am nurturing a peaceful mind. Each breath like this is a return, a release that helps you realize that peace has never left you. It is always in your heart. If you maintain this practice every day, you will notice a miraculous change. You will be less easily swept away by anger or sadness. You will feel joy more clearly in small things, like a loved one's smile, like the morning sunlight shining through a window, like birds singing in the garden. Your mind will become clear, light, and from there, you will naturally be able to give love to others. True happiness is not something distant, but when we know how to cherish the present, how to sow seeds of love in every moment. A sincere hug, a word of thanks, a kind act. All are seeds. They may be small, but when sown in the fertile ground of the heart, they will grow, and one day you will see a whole garden of peace blooming in your heart. Life is like a long book, with some pages full of tears, and some pages full of smiles. We cannot tear out the sad pages, but we can choose to write bright new ones. And to do that, we only need to start by sowing a wholesome seed today. Sow one seed each day, and gradually the book of your life will be filled with the light of happiness and peace. When you sow seeds of happiness, you will find that not only do you experience joy, but those around you will also be radiated. Love has a miraculous, contagious power. Like a lamp lighting many other lamps, the light will become ever brighter. That is the profound meaning of living mindfully and sowing wholesome seeds. And now, as this journey is drawing to a close, I want to send you a very gentle reminder. Always remember that sowing seeds of happiness means sowing wholesome seeds in your mind. Nurturing them with love is the way for those seeds to sprout and grow. And then the fruit you will reap is profound peace in your soul. When the mind is at peace, all things are at peace. When the heart is bright, all things are bright. May you always keep the lamp shining in your heart to illuminate your own path and the path of those around you. And may every day of your life be a complete day, a meaningful day, a day where you both live in love and taste the sweet flavor of peace.